So tell me a little bit about I Trap the Devil. What can audiences expect?
I Trap the Devil is like it's like a dark drama horror movie. It's spooky and it's tense. It's not an outright horror movie, but it's basically about two a husband and a wife, and they go to the husband's brother's house for Christmas, and they find that he has kidnapped someone and believes them to be the devil, and it's kind of this morality play between like, well, should we let this guy out? Like, what if it actually is the devil and such? And it's kind of Carpenter inspired. It's kind of Park Chan-wook inspired.
I love it. In what way Park Chan-wook inspired? Because I definitely get the Carpenter.
I like films that are like kind of sadistic thrillers that are like elegantly composed. And I think Park Chan does like an impeccable job doing. My favorite movie of all time is Old Boy. So
amazing.
One, I have a huge affinity for wallpaper. The wallpaper at the house, the house has like an interesting wallpaper.
It does.
And I wanted to tell something that's like, it's like basically like a dark drama. And if you look at like a lot of Park Chan's films, they are like dark dramas.
Yeah.
In the form of an action thriller or a vampire movie or whatever. So I really kind of like leaned into that, and it may be subtle, but that's
nice.
That's my inspirations.
So obviously we won't spoil anything, but there is this kind of ambiguity of, is it the devil? Is it just some poor guy locked in a basement? Did you kind of always have from the start, in your head which way this was going, or because the fact that it is ambiguous, did you sort of know from the start?
For me anyways, and I don't know, you've seen the movie too. It's ambiguous for about half the movie, and then at about the halfway point you get a yes or a no. And I really a lot. I read user reviews. I look at critic reviews, and a lot of people were like, well, I wanted to do that, but I feel like that's been done.
Yeah.
I really wanted to come at it from a place of like, okay, cool. Halfway through the movie, whether this is or this is not.
Yeah.
And now it's just like watching everybody else sort of react and kind of. And for me, that's like the car crash in slow motion. It's like the answer to whatever is behind that door, and you're just watching these people sort of fumble any attempt to kind of get it right, and they can't communicate. The movie for me is about communication, and like none of these people can communicate. Like they all love each other, they all care about each other. They're at odds, but like the way family is, and none of these people can sort of communicate that clear enough to progress.
Yeah. Interesting. So you said you don't necessarily consider it a horror film. Is that right?
I mean, it's a horror film. I do think that this one definitely leans a bit more towards like a dark drama.
Yeah.
I love horror films. I hate to be part of that crowd that's like, it's not a horror film.
It's something other.
But and there's some scary stuff in the film. But I do think the film is like, it's like three people in a house talking about like morality and like what is good and what is bad.
It is like, it's kind of my favorite type of scary, where it's like dread. It's just this palpable sense of dread that kind of builds throughout the film, and you create an amazing atmosphere with it. I just wondered, what kind of atmosphere was it like on set? Did that kind of reflect that, or was it very kind of light and fun, or did you as a director want to try and keep that atmosphere?
The set was kind of terrible. We shot the movie in absolutely no time at all. Like if you think of what a normal movie is shot in, we shot it in literally about half the days.
Right.
And everyone that did this did it because they like really believed in the project, and it was just a hellish experience. We were shooting. I live in Wyoming, and we shot it in the middle of winter. Which like in the middle of winter, you check your temperature and it's like, oh, it's -20, so it's absolutely freezing. God. And we were outside shooting, and we just had to go, and everyone was so, you kind of get delirious about it.
Yeah.
Like it's so hellacious that you just gotta like truck through, and everyone was such an incredible trooper during the whole thing, and that we just plowed through it in the amount of days, and we ended up making something that I'm extremely proud of.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It's wonderful. Tell me a bit about, obviously it's Christmassy as well. Was that something that you kind of, I know you've mentioned before, Eyes Wide Shut maybe being an influence there, and just like tell me a little bit about that sort of Christmas setting.
I love Christmas movies. Yeah. And I love movies that have, my favorite movies are movies that their tone is their own.
Yeah.
Like the movie is its tone. And me and AJ talked a lot about that and the fact that like this movie is a Christmas movie, but it takes place at Christmas. It's not. There's no Christmas carol songs. There's no Christmas anything that's kind of kitschy and kind of unauthentic. And it was like, how do I get these characters to the home in like an organic way? And so bringing them in at Christmas, I was like, yeah, you go to see your family at Christmas. And so it just felt right. And then, I'm a huge fan of like aesthetically like Eyes Wide Shut and Black Christmas. Eyes Wide Shut because the movie's it's my favorite Christmas movie, that and The Shining, Kubrick. But like The Shining because there's a ton of snow, and Eyes Wide Shut because it is at Christmas, but it's not like Christmas has no hold over the story. Yeah. And I like that. Same thing with I Trapped the Devil. There's no like, there's just Christmas stuff around. Yeah. And it's there. It's a little dour and kind of winter melancholic, but I didn't have to feel like that. Yeah. And a lot of the actors like really got on board, and like AJ brought like a sense of humor to it. I think there's some I say comedy in like the loosest stretch of that, but there's some things that I think are funny and like light, and it's a weird tone, and I think it has a tone in and of itself. Yeah, definitely, and it is like Lynch is a good comparison in Kubrick because it's films that rely on mood. This is a film that feels like it relies predominantly on mood because the story itself is quite simple, I suppose. So did that mood, was that something that you kind of found in post production when you were able to sort of put it together and add music and that kind of thing, or was that look and that feel something you always had in your head? I mean, I think it extends forever. When I wrote the movie, it was a lot darker. I was like very into like Matt Reeves' Let Me In remake, and I love that movie. And I was like, this movie's dark and dark and dark and dark and dark. And I was like, I want to make something dark and dark and dark. Yeah. And we got to set, and within the first day, I just was like, that's not the movie that this story is supposed to be. Yeah. And like, I think the smartest thing a filmmaker can do is they can like, there's the movie you write, there's the movie you shoot, and there's the movie you edit. And when I got to shooting, I was like, okay, look, this thing wants to be a bit quirkier than I think it is on the page. And so I leaned into that. Yeah. And within like the second day, I was like, okay, cool. You guys are taking this in an interesting direction. Let's continue to take that. Yeah. The biggest thing that I think a lot of filmmakers' mistakes are, and again, I'm a first-time filmmaker, so I have almost no right saying this, but like I think a lot of people try to like get through there, like I gotta get to South by, I gotta get to Sundance. They rush through it. I took 2 years, and I really understood like what it was I actually shot. Yeah. And so when I was like playing with it, I was like, okay, well, this is nothing what I wrote it to be, but it can be this thing. Yeah. And so I got to live in it a little bit. I hope to do that with my other projects. It probably won't happen just because, commerce. Yeah. But for this one, I'm very happy because I kind of got to like accentuate like what the tone was.